We very much want to put the performing artist at the centre of this conference about renewal and responsibility. And so I'm pleased that our keynote speaker this morning is the singer Raehann Bryce-Davis. And I'm about to leave the stage for her to take over, but before she starts to speak, she will sing to you.
It is my distinct pleasure to be here with you today. Normally, when I'm on a stage like this in a big opera house, my script has been written for me by the likes of Verdi, Donizetti, Bizet, or Wagner. But this morning, you'll have to put up with the script being written by me. The fact that I'm here means that things are not as they usually are. The fact that I'm sitting here speaking for this esteemed assembly means that while I might be in a practice room preparing for my approaching La Scala debut, I'm here with you. My career as an opera singer and your careers as administrators are rarely done by the same person, and yet this is the position that I found myself in during the pandemic. I was a performer, producing videos like the one you just saw, but during the days I would also be writing press releases and having meetings with general directors about necessary policy changes, all in the same day. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me start from the beginning. My family is Jamaican. My mom is right here. I was born in Mexico and raised in America. I like to say I'm Jamex-American, very exotic. I attended school at the University of Texas at Arlington, and then graduate school at Manhattan School of Music, then did some young artist programs in the States before coming to Europe for a Porgy and Bess tour. During that tour, I saved every single dollar that I could to survive in Europe for 5 months. I wrote to every manager I could who would respond to my cold emails, and sang for every competition that had, a decent amount of prize money, or anybody on the jury that could possibly give me a job. In the States, I had been passed over by the biggest, most prestigious opera houses, and so it was to my complete shock when I arrived in Vienna and sang for my first international competition, the Hilde Zadek Gesangswettbewerb, with Hilda herself sitting on the front row, and right beside her, my consummate hero, Christa Ludwig. And I was completely floored when I won. My greatest hero, with my final notes, was cheering for me, and I just in shock started applauding for her. My heroes said that I had it. Christa Ludwig invested in me, and eventually she gave me the very dress that she wore for her debut at the Musikverein. For her farewell concert, which is where we had first connected, at the Musikverein. Europe had welcomed me with open arms, and it was here that I was given some of my first major opportunities by some of the people in this very room. You know who you are. In 2020, my career had just taken off, and I was starting to be offered leading roles, first as Leonore at Teatro Massimo di Palermo, then Eboli at Opera Ballet Vlaanderen and Staatstheater Nuremberg, then a jump in as Sara in Roberto Devereux at LA Opera, new management, and becoming an opera for peace emerging artist, all this excitement and leading roles, and then the pandemic hit. Suddenly, I, like many of you, was suddenly on a couch, unemployed, with nothing but time on my hands. Then came the murder of George Floyd. This was not the first Black man or woman killed by a racist cop, but now in our pandemic vacuums, it was the first time we truly could not look away. The world suddenly erupted into protests across Italy, Spain, Belgium, Germany, Denmark, the UK, everywhere around the world, demanding a conversation about justice, race, and equity. In the midst of this thundering conversation, a few Black opera singers decided to have a little chat with some other singers, and just to discuss the change that we thought needed to be made in our own industry. This tiny chat that we thought we were going to have turned into a conversation between 400 artists and administrators from all over the world. We immediately saw the huge potential and the desperate need for an organizational structure out of this powerful energy. The Black Opera Alliance was formed. And I had the wonderful opportunity to be at the helm of this groundbreaking organization with my co-founders, Darrell Akon, Alacia Fox, and the rest of the wonderful team. I remember setting up our very first email address account, and the very next morning waking up to an email from the New York Times in our inbox. The work we were doing was essential and timely. Opera was at a standstill, and we had the opportunity to help our industry build back better. The mission of the Black Opera Alliance is to empower Black classical artists and administrators by exposing systems of racial inequity and underrepresentation of the African diaspora in all facets of the industry, and challenging institutions to implement drastic reform. This work was and is essential to the future of opera. If we want opera to truly represent the greatest humanity can offer and remain relevant and connected to these current times, this work must be done. One of our first points of action was to come together to see what changes needed to be made in the industry for it to be more inclusive, safe, and equitable. And I will note here that the work that the Black Opera Alliance is specifically focused on is the advancement of Black people. But research shows that this work, this very specific work, benefits all people of color, all genders, all abilities, all identities. Inclusivity for all people is the goal that we strive for, but we strive for it through the lens of Blackness. These early conversations led us to gain a consensus around 8 specific points, which became known as the Pledge for Racial Equity and Systemic Change in Opera. The following is a shortened version of the 8 points addressed in the pledge. Number 1, hire Black artists who reflect, at minimum, the racial demographics of our most diverse communities. Number 2, require that administrative staff, orchestra members, and independent contractors reflect, at minimum, the racial demographics of our most diverse communities. Number 3, program and prioritize works by Black composers and librettists on the main stage, especially those that feature storytelling true to the complexity and broad experience of Black culture. Number 4, hire Black creatives and production personnel at every level of the organization. This includes, but is not limited to, stage managers, directors, conductors, costume designers, hair and makeup artists, and lighting designers. Number 5, require that visual artists undergo training in successfully preparing a Black artist for the stage. Number 6, review the organization's hiring practices and administrative policies for inherent racism and/or implicit bias. Number 7, review the board's recruitment culture and decision-making methodologies for inherent racism and/or implicit bias. And finally, number 8, include within the company's official code of conduct a commitment to anti-racism and anti-oppression. This agreement will be signed by every board member, employee, contractor, and subcontractor of the organization. I know that's a lot. You can read it for yourselves online. These points were sent to all Opera America members, and currently 91% have either signed or are in the process of signing on to the pledge. In the short year since the Black Opera Alliance was founded, we have amassed almost 1,000 members worldwide, have become a 501c3 nonprofit organization, won the Sphinx Venture Fund for almost $100,000, which has gone in part to partnering with research firm TRG Arts to fully analyze and report on the efforts being made by American companies as it relates to equity, diversity, and inclusion. BOA also launched its own fundraiser, spearheaded by the music video you just saw, To the Afflicted. This year we raised over $15,000, which has gone towards supporting young artists with recording and audition costs and creating educational opportunities for BOA members. So far, this work has been primarily focused in America due to the fact that most members are US-based, but European Black artists and administrators have been heavily involved from the beginning and strongly requested a stronger presence here in Europe. Due to the lack of representation and the discrimination that they faced here at home. Having said that, one can never negate the role that Europe has played for many Black artists. Europe has long been a haven for many who faced oppression or lack of opportunity in their home countries. Singers like Grace Bumbry, Barbara Hendricks, Sir Willard White, and Rary Grist made their homes here in Europe. And so many from my generation, like myself, have found better opportunities, more progressive and inclusive casting, and a better quality of life in Europe, and made it our homes. So many children of longtime Black Europeans now strive to join the thriving opera scene. However, I had a conversation recently with a Black French singer who spoke of no one believing that she, as a Black person, could ever become an opera singer and do justice for our hallowed art form. Though she herself was a native French speaker, raised in the same culture as her colleagues. Perhaps jazz or gospel were possibilities for her, but never opera. I spoke recently to another Black American soprano who was trained and specialized in the works of Handel and Mozart, and yet all she could receive offers for was Porgy and Bess, where she found herself treated as an other, never as a respected opera singer. Just, we put up with her because we have to, because Porgy sells. Expectation is a difficult thing to overcome. We all know great singers like Jessie Norman and Shirley Verrett, and living singers like Priti Yende and Larry Brownlee who are having successful careers. Yet still, young Black singers in Europe are being told that they can never sing some traditional repertoire. They can possibly sing villains or whores, but never ingenues or gods. Many European stages and offices remain starkly and unabashedly white, with perhaps one Black token singer in a sea of white. Of this, Raehann Bryce said, "All token Blacks have the same experience. I have been pointed to as a solution to things that have not yet begun to be solved, because pointing at us token Blacks eases the consciences of millions, and this is dreadfully wrong," said Raehann Bryce. Hiring one Black singer per season is not the solution any more than the election of one Black president, Barack Obama, meant the end of racism. I think we all know that to be true. So what will it take for European houses to feature the best artists that humanity can offer? Because this is the goal. What will it take for the stories on our stages to move our audiences and inspire a higher reality through art, as Goethe, the great German poet, pursued? In a world where race is such a large part of so many conversations, our stages and workplaces cannot be a complete departure from that conversation. Nina Simone once said, "An artist's duty is to reflect the times." Race, gender, cultures, fat phobia, ageism, identities, and abilities are all huge conversations of our times. If opera is to remain relevant, we must take part in these conversations. That includes not only hiring Black artists, Asian artists, Middle Eastern, Latinx, and other people of colors as opera singers. it also includes hiring creatives of the same backgrounds as dramaturgs, directors, conductors, librettists as well, for opera to truly become reflective of our times. And this pointed effort towards inclusivity is not an unfair advantage. Worldwide, the West has profited financially from the disadvantage of Black people through the slave trade, colonialism, and natural resource exploitation. And the economic impact hinders young Black creatives to this day. Pointed efforts, therefore, to rectify the inequities caused are therefore not unfair advantages, but rather giving everyone an equal opportunity. Over 400 years, we have seen exotic stories told by white men from their outsider vantage points. The time has come for us to move forward and tell more inclusive stories. And please note, we can tell our own stories. I've heard many administrators in response to that statement reply that they don't know any Black composers or directors of quality. If this is the case for some of you sitting in this room, I have 2 recommendations. Number 1, expand your network so that recruitment is an active part of your hiring process, ensuring a diverse pool from which to screen candidates. This can be done through collaborations with organizations like the Black Opera Alliance, perhaps creating auditions, prizes, or competitions similar to Opera Foundation, the Europäische Opernregiepreis, or the European Composer Competition, specifically to find new talent that otherwise might remain undiscovered. An example of this is the Opera Voices of South Africa International Singing Competition, in which the founder, Njabulo Madlala, has connected South African singers to so many wonderful European opera houses. Expanding your network can also include recruiting from young artist programs, competitions, historically Black colleges and universities, and other institutions. Even making use of hashtags on Instagram or searches on YouTube, because the talent already exists. It's just outside of your networks. And second, if you aren't seeing the talent that you need to create an inclusive stage and workplace, I encourage you to grow the talent that you want to see. Create scholarships for and actively recruit young artists, creatives, and administrators that will be ready to take on the mantle of opera in the future. Europe may be the best place for the world to grow these talents. Industry professionals or local ambassadors can spot the talent and provide scholarships or access to affordable or free educational institutions. European opera houses, especially those with ensemble systems, can train young singers, directors, and conductors, and they can hone their craft so they are able to survive financially and create incredible art, rich with the diversity of thought necessary to push our industry forward. I had the honor recently of being a judge for an all-Black competition and was just blown away by the array of luxurious voices of all sizes and colors. Many were straight from top conservatories or young artist programs, but many more came from smaller towns, where they perhaps had less access to top diction or repetitors because of their lack of funding. The singers in competitions in general, in many countries, that move forward do not necessarily have the most exciting or beautiful voices. They are those with a proximity to wealth. This should not be. This is inequity in action. Europe has long had a more humanistic approach to the survival of artists and citizens in general, with education being a right for all and with government funding for the arts. Should Europe choose inclusivity and welcome a wealth of talent and fresh ideas from around the world, the results would be astonishing. But with this influx of talent, our opera houses must be ready to share the stage with these fresh faces. Cultural sensitivity and empathy will be required. New policies and additional training will be essential. I'm always surprised myself how artists like makeup artists can feel comfortable with the large gaps in their skill set, only having the ability to apply quality wig and makeup to white artists. It would be like one of you hiring me to sing Azucena and my saying, oh no, I don't sing Act 3. I only sing the popular arias. Oh, you say I must? Okay, well, I'll just mark those, and I only sing the good ones full voice. You know? We wouldn't accept that. None of you would hire me ever again. And yet, we accept that from our wig and makeup artists, from our wardrobe departments that only provide nude-colored garments for white skin, from our lighting designers that only know how to light fair skin and leave black singers in shadow, and the list goes on and on. So where do we go from here? It all starts with a commitment. The Black Opera Alliance Leadership Council has made themselves available to the conversations with companies around the world, and should your company decide that you want to make the commitment to inclusivity and to sign the Pledge for Racial Equity and Systemic Change in Opera, you can ask any questions and make changes to the verbiage so that it fits the needs of your company. I recently stepped down from my position at the Leadership Council so I can focus on my own performance career. But the current Leadership Council is available to speak with you as you strive to make inclusivity a centerpiece in your opera houses. There have never been so many resources and trained equity, diversity, and inclusion specialists to help you do this work. I remember the face of a young black girl in Paris when I told her that she could, this season, go to the Opera House in Paris and see Janine DeBeek, someone who looked just like her, on that big stage. Her eyes shone with pride. If we truly center inclusivity in opera, we will see the greatest humanity can offer on our stages, and audiences from every walk of life and from every country will feel at home in our opera houses. It is not easy or comfortable to challenge our own biases or privileges and to embrace and respect the differences between us. But this work is required for us to reap the benefits of having everyone at the table. And when everyone is at the table, then, and only then, can we say that we have art that reflects our times, that we have achieved our higher reality, that opera being created and performed will be at the highest level, leading us into a new golden age that vastly surpasses the golden age of yore, a golden age of voices, of storytelling, of unity, of living. Thank you.